Hey everybody, it's Mike. I'm going to be diving in. I'm going to be showing you the new website designer, and there's no better way to learn than to watch me build our new website. So let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do, I started with a new project, and I'm going to come in on a new page. I'm going to add a new blank section. So I got my new section. I'm going to click on this, and on the section settings bar, I'm going to click on image, and I'm going to select the image right here. So I'm going to come in here. What I'm going to do, and I already uploaded the images I'm going to be using for this video, so you can drop the images you want to use right here, or you can use the royalty-free image search and find images that match the theme of your business, just typing in some keywords. So I'm going to go ahead and drop in this background image. I just double clicked on it. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this and kind of position the image to be exactly where I want it to be. That's the focal point. Okay, great. The next thing I want to do is I want to start dragging in a section on here. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to drag a section into, a grid into this section, and I'm going to do a 2x1 section. So I've got that grid in here now, and so the next thing I want to do is I want to put an image on the right and text on the left. So I'm going to drag in my image, and now I'm going to double click on that image, and I'm going to select the image that I want to put in here. So I got this one right here. And you're probably going to say, well, this image looks weird. Why does it have that gray background? So if you're uploading a transparent background image, it adds this little gray background to kind of help you see where the borders of the image are. But we have this little preview button. You can click on the eyeball, and you can see what it looks like normally without it. So that looks pretty good. I'm happy with it. So the next thing I want to do is I want to add in some text, let's say a call to action. I also want to add in a spacer because I want some space between the next text, and I want to add in a little description, and I want to add in a button. So let's go ahead and drag this button over here. Perfect. All right, so I got this in here. I'll move my video out of the way. And so the next thing I want to do is I want to duplicate this spacer because I want a spacer below this text. I'm going to duplicate it again. I just click the copy button, and I'm going to put this above this text but in that column. So there we go. Next thing I want to do is I just want to click this alignment button. I want everything left aligned on my page. So I got that on here. Perfect. All right. And so this text, I'm going to click on the font menu. I'm going to make this a different font. I'm going to make this a different size. So I'm going to save you from the boring part of filling in the site with all the different text. So I'm just going to put in some example text for now. And now to style the button, I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to go ahead and open up the color palette menu. So I want the background of this button to be like a yellowish, orangish color right here. I think that's pretty good. So we'll go ahead and, yep, that's good. Next thing I want to do is I just want to remove that border. So I had the 2-pixel border. Now you can't read that text anymore because the text is white. So I'm going to go ahead and make that black. So we can go ahead and do that. Now my button's looking pretty good. It's actually a little bit too yellow for my liking. So I'm just going to make it have a slight more of a orangish tint to it. Okay, that's good. So next thing I want to do is I want to add a cool hover effect. So on these tabs over here on the left, you can actually come in and set an effect on hover. So for this one, I want to do, let's say, a white background on hover with a black border. So I'm going to change that to black. So now if I click away, I can hover over this button, and you can kind of see that effect that I just added. So this is starting to look good. Now below this, I want to add like 4 boxes or like a grid showing like the features of the system. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to click on Add Block, and I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to put another grid below this one, and this one's going to be a 4x1 grid. So I click on Apply. I got my 4 columns right here, so that's looking good. The next thing I want to do is I want to add in an icon. So I'm going to put an icon. That's going to be like a feature icon, and then I'm going to put in some text. You can think of this as like the feature title, and I'm going to put another text below that, and I want this to be like the feature description. So for the title, I'm going to make this one bold. So I'll click on bold, and the description, I would just have a little bit more text here. So that's looking good. Now the next thing I might want to do is change this icon. I want it to be bigger. right? And I want to change the icon. So I can click on that, set the icon that I want. And now that I'm happy with this, I would just start copying this, right? So I can copy this over here, and I could do this 4 times and just kind of move these things. I'm clicking on that little copy button, and I'm just dragging it over. And so I could do that, you know, a bunch of times right here and get this added on my site. So there we go. All right. And so I would normally do this one more time, but my video is blocking it, so I'm just going to move on to the next one. All right, so in the next section, let's see, I'll add a new blank section. And this one, instead of the background image, let's just go ahead and set a background color. So on this one, we can do I want to do like a very, very light bluish color. So we can do something like this, and I'll make it lighter, right? Just a slight, subtle hint of color. All right, perfect. Next thing I want to do in here is I just want to start adding in another grid. So I'm going to do a 2x1 grid right here, and this time I'm going to do an image on the left and text on the right. So I'm going to drop in a nice image right here. I'm going to double click on this, and here we go. Let's put in this one. This one also has the transparent background, so you're going to see that effect right here. But let's also do a few text items. So I'm going to do a bold heading text, and I'm going to do a description text, and I also want to do a spacer because I don't want the text touching each other. So we'll come in here, drag in the spacer as well. All right, perfect. And so for this heading, I want to do something bigger. Maybe we'll do a 38 size font again, also Lauderdale. And in here, this is where I got some description about our features. So I would put in a bunch of text here. That's looking good. Now we can start moving on to the other items. I might also put a spacer above that. It's up to you guys, but we can go ahead and just click duplicate on that. Now we got that. Perfect. Now the next section we're going to do is going to be a little bit more complicated, right? So we're going to do a pricing block. And so for this, I'm just going to start with a new blank section. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to set a background image. I come in here, I click on background, and let's go ahead and put in my pricing background. So just like the other image, I'm going to set the focal point, and I got that looking good. And so on the pricing, I want to have some text, lets everyone know this is the pricing, right? Pricing. And I'm going to make this a nice big 38 size font as well. So we'll do 38, Lotto, perfect. And in here, what I would want to do is I'm going to use a switcher element, because the switcher element is perfect for pricing. You can think of this as like you got your monthly plan, monthly, and then I got yearly, right? Yearly. And if I do like longer text, like yearly plan or monthly plan, you can see it kind of like wraps a little bit. Don't worry about that. You can click on the switcher, and you can click on this little icon to open up the switcher settings. Actually, the one next to it, the settings icon, and you can change the width of this. So I don't want it to wrap, so I would do something like that. I also don't want the pricing to be touching this, so I'm going to use another spacer. So I got my spacer in there. And now what I want to start doing is putting in a grid, because I want like 2 columns for my pricing, like plan A, plan B. So for that, I'm going to do a grid. And I'm just going to delete this button, and I'm going to add in a new grid. So I'm going to do a 2x1 grid also on this one. And so now you can see I got this really big, wide grid, but I don't want it so wide. So what I'm going to do in here is I'm actually going to change the width, the max width of the switcher content. So if you click on an item, you see on the bottom bar right here, you know, the relationship of these items. So I got a column inside of a grid inside of the switcher content. So I want to change the width of the switcher content. So I'm going to click on that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the style manager. And so on the style manager, under dimensions, I can actually set the max width. So I'm going to do something like 800 max width. And so now you see I have my columns a little bit skinnier. It's hard to see right now because we got to set like a background color on it. So I could do that. I can click on one of the columns. And on this one, let's just go ahead and make this a white background. And on this one, let's go ahead and make this like a blue background. So we'll do something like that, you know, maybe, yeah, something like that. So that's looking good. Now the other thing I want to do is I want to come into the Style Manager. I actually want to give this like a rounded corner. And so for that, we're going to use a border radius. And so you can see the kind of effect that this has just by moving this to the extreme. But I want to do something like 12. But you can just slide it to get it looking exactly how you want it to look. And so I'm going to do the 12 border radius because it has just a subtle rounded effect. And now I can start dragging in different items onto my page. So I want to do like a title on the top. This is the plan name. We can say Plan A. And I'm going to duplicate that. I got Plan B. I'm just going to duplicate this a few times and drag this over here on the right. So we got the yearly plan, Plan A, and Plan B. You get the idea. And on this one, let's go ahead and make the font a little bit bigger, maybe like a 24. I'll also do a lotto. And then we got some little description here. So there's a few problems with this, right? So the first thing I notice is like, wow, there's no padding on this box. The text is like touching the edges. I don't like that. So again, I'm going to click on something in here, and on this bottom bar, I see the text is inside a column. So I want to click on the column because I want to change the column. So on the column, I can come in here and I can do a few different things. This setting bar only has the ability to change the gap, so I can change the gap between the columns and do that. But what I want to do is I want to change the padding. So I'm going to go back into the Style Manager, and then under Dimensions, I'm just going to add some padding, right? And so I could kind of drag this and see, you know, what looks good. So I might do like a 25 on the left, a 25 on the right, and 20 on the top and bottom. All right, so that's looking better. It's looking a lot better. So I got my plan name, I got my plan description, and let's also go ahead and add in a spacer. Gotta put spacers everywhere so everything's not completely touching. So I resize my spacer. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to start adding like a bulleted list of features. So I would come in here. Now we have the element that's perfect for this called icon box. And this basically gives you a few elements in one. It's an icon with text and a button. Now I don't want the button, but the idea is, let's say I drag this a few times onto my page. I could drag it, let's just do twice. I'm going to delete the button. And now I'm going to start typing in here like feature 1 and then feature 2. And so now I got my bulleted list of features. I might also just make this left align, right? And I can come in here and double click on the icon, and I could change this icon. So we could do any sort of icon. I'm not going to change it. We'll just leave it as is, but you get the idea. I could also come in here and set the color of this icon. Maybe you want to do a nice green for this one. I could do red for the other one. Oops, not that menu. All right, so I got my list of features. I can start duplicating this as many times as I want to get my list of features, but at the end of the day, what I want people to do is to sign up, right? So I'm going to put a button here on the bottom, and on this button, I'm going to set this to have rounded corners, not filled, and that's looking pretty good. So I'm happy with that. I'm not happy with these colors. I'm going to come in and tweak the colors a little bit, but I got the basic structure of what I want to do. So by the time you're seeing this, if you're seeing the website, you're going to know, all the little tweaks we made to the colors and filled in all the text. And so the next thing I would do is I could actually delete this stuff on the right, and I could just start copying this and drag it over here. So I also got to do the thing with the padding I did on the other side. So I would come in, click on the column, and then from here, I'm going to do the same thing. I did like 25 on the top, 25 on the bottom. Actually, it was 20. That looks a little off. So 20 on the top, 20 on the bottom, 25 on the left, 25 on the right. So, and if you forget what you put in there, you can just click on the other column, see the settings, click on the other one, and see the settings here. So that looks good. On this side, I want to do like a white color text. So that'll pop more against that blue background. So let's do white. Perfect. And so I would just come in here and duplicate all this. But I'll save you guys from those details. But it's pretty simple. And then with the button, if I try to duplicate this button and move it over here, right, it's going to be hard to read. So for this one, I might want to do let's say a white background. And it's not going to be transparent. It's going to be solid white. And let's say the border, I'll just change that to 0. And there we go. I got my button. So that's looking good. I would also start dragging the features in here, but that's looking good. So now that I got my pricing block, I'm going to obviously do this for 2 times. I got a monthly plan and a yearly plan, but that's looking good. Now I want to start with a new section. So I'm going to add in a blank section, and this one we're going to make even more complicated, right? So this is going to be easy to do, but it's one of those unique layouts. And so for this one, what I'm going to do is I started with my section, and then I'm going to drag in a grid. And so I want you to think of this as like slicing up, a cake. It's like, how do you want it to look? You're slicing it into different little grids. On this one, I want to do it by one grid, and I want to show you what I have in mind. So I want to make this a little bit skinnier. So I'm going to go ahead and just drag this a little bit over here on the left. So I got one grid box smaller than the other side. And then on the other side, I want to break this up into 4. So 2 by 2 grid. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to drag in another grid inside the other grid. So I'm going to do 2 by 2. And so now I got all these little boxes over here on the right. And I want this to be like a list of features or benefits. So what I would do is I want to come in and actually change the background of the grid item. So I can come in here and let's say specify a background. So for this, I can just use this menu. So I'll use this menu, and for the background, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set something like really light and semi-transparent, right? And so we'll do something like this, and maybe with a bluish tint to it, something like this. And so let me show you the effect that I'm going for. So I copied this color code on the bottom here, so now I can just paste it on all of them. Let's see, I'll do background over here. I think I copied the wrong one, so I'm just going to set them all to this. Oh, because I had the transparency thing set down here. So I got to do the same thing with the transparency. So this one was set to, you can see this number on the bottom right that moves when I slide it. So this one's set to 60. I'll also set the other ones to 60 for the transparency, just so they're all the same. So let's do that. 60 and 60. All right, so that's looking good. Next thing I want to do is let's go ahead and actually set a background image for this, and you kind of see the effect that I'm going for. So on this one, I'm going to do, I have this background 2 image, and so I'm going to go ahead and set a focal point on here, and let's go ahead and also start adding in some text. I'm going to do a big bold feature text, and then I'm going to do like a description text, just like I've been doing. And I'm also going to use my spacer like I always do. So I'm going to put the spacer in the middle, and we'll go ahead and duplicate this text to give you an idea of how that looks. So I want this font to be also a Lotto font, and we can also go ahead and make this a 38. I might also set the color of this to white because it kind of pops a little bit more on this background. So I got that looking good. Now, this wasn't the exact color that I was going for. I think I might need it to be a little bit more transparent and maybe a little bit more darker. Yeah. Okay, so I could duplicate this again. So I'm going to set the background color here and the transparency. I'm just going to get all these in sync again. So background color, transparency, and then background color and transparency. So, all right. So now this has more of the effect I'm going, because I want you to kind of see the background through this. And I also want to round those corners, just like I did on the other box. So I'm going to click on this, open the Style Manager, and from here I'm setting the border radius, right? So I can do this on all of them, border radius. Click on the other one, border radius of 12. Click on the last one, border radius of 12. So now I got this cool effect for the list of features or benefits. And so I'm going to start putting in some different things in here too. So I'm going to do something like I did on the top part, where I'm going to have an icon and some text and some other text. So I'm going to change this icon to white, and I'm going to also change the text to white. Maybe we'll do a slight off-white, and I'll move this over here. All right, so I'm going to copy this color code down here on the bottom so I can paste it into this one. So I pasted that in, and so that's looking good. Perfect. Now, I also might want to just change the padding on this column. So I clicked on the column, and just like I did on the other ones, I might say, like, you know, hey, there's a 10 pixel padding all around. So it kind of looks more like a proper box. So, all right, we got this in here. And so this is where I can start coming in and making one of the texts bold, right? And the other text will be a little bit longer, talking about the feature, right? And so I would duplicate this, 4 times. I would just start clicking copy and copying these things onto the other side, and getting it to look exactly how I want it to look. I might even make this, different color in here. But yeah, so this is one of those more complex layouts that's made easy using our web designer, because you're just thinking about this in really like grids and boxes, right? So you're breaking up your page. You're like, okay, I want it, cut in half. And then great, on the other side, cut it again twice. So it's in 4 pieces. So we got 4 columns. And that's the exact thought process that I'm going through here, doing all this. So it makes it super easy to design things. And so some of the other adjustments that you can do on here is every section has, this top padding and bottom padding. So you can click on this and drag to resize to get it looking exactly how you want it to look. So definitely come in here and customize that. But the last thing I'm going to do for this video, because I want to keep this video fairly short, is I'm going to come in, I'm going to add a new blank section for a footer. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to move my video up to the top, and let's start adding in a footer. And so for my footer, I want to also do, let's say, a grid. So I'm going to put in a grid, and on here, let's go ahead and do a 4x1 grid, right? And so imagine a logo on the left. Let's see, we'll do the image. We got a logo on the left, and I'm just going to resize this so you can get the idea. So we're going to have logo, we're going to have company name, we're going to have like company address, right? And so I can start building out this. Next, on the right, I might put like, popular links on the website. So I could start putting in some text, and I can just duplicate this a few times. And let's go ahead and left align the top one. So popular links. And you can have your About Us page, Contact Us page, etc. Now when I'm putting in a link, I can just click on this link button, and this is going to allow you to put a link to any page in your website. And so in this drop down, you're going to see all the pages that already exist in your website. So you're going to be able to just click on it. If it's already a page you've designed, it'll be in this list. But you can also just paste a link to any website under the sun, like just paste a link to Google, YouTube, etc. in this address bar right here. And you can specify it's going to open up in a new tab or not. And so I'm starting to build the skeleton of my footer. Now I want to come in and style it a little bit different. So I'm going to come in here and maybe we'll do this slight bluish color for a background, and I'm just going to keep playing with this until it starts to look, how I want it to look. And so we can start doing something like that, like a really light grayish blue. Okay, so I'm happy with that. And so that's my footer. I might want to also even just delete this padding on the top and bottom, and I'll have something like that, right? So when you come down to my site, you'll see that on here, and that's looking good. So this is kind of just a quick overview to show you the kind of the thought process that you go through designing your website. Again, everything is just starting with sections, breaking those sections up into the grids, and putting the content you want in that grid. But you can start building, sites in here super easy and quick once you get the hang of it, and definitely start going in there and experimenting with the different elements. So there's a lot of elements we didn't go over on this video today, but actually one of the last ones I want to show you before we go is the tabs accordion element. So this one's really cool. We actually just added this, and let me show you this in a new section. So the tabs accordion element actually changes on mobile device. So you can come in here, drag this in, and so the way that this works, let me go ahead and move my video really quick. And so the way that this works is when you switch to the mobile view, the tabs are going to automatically change to accordions. So that part's really cool because now you can design your element once and it responds automatically on the mobile view. So on here, you can see now this is an accordion. So that's really cool. The other thing I want to show you here is look how awesome the website looks on mobile. So I can tweak some other things in here and change, let's say, the font, because I don't want the font to wrap, so I can do like 28, and I could maybe change the spacer and make it have less space, right? But by default, everything you design inside is responsive, right? So no responsive issues. You have everything on here looking great on all devices. So same thing here. I might want to change this text. So we'll go ahead and make this fit on one line. I'm going to do like a 26 font. So that's good. Everything's looking good. So even on this one looks good. I would actually want to change the size of this grid, so we can do that. I can just resize this grid. Well, we got to get that fixed because that's not letting me resize. Well, we'll get that fixed. Don't worry about it. Let's see if I can specify the gap. No. Let's see. Okay, well, I can come in here onto the right side, the style manager, and I should be able to set the max width. So on the max width, we could do something like, 400 pixels, if that works. So let's see. Yep, so that's not going to work. So we'll get that one fixed. Our goal is to have everything work perfectly and be responsive by default. We still got some improvements to make on this beta version, but you get the idea. Everything will be responsive by default. So we can come in here and go ahead and change the font size of this one to like 22 or 28. Oh, not 228. Okay, 28. And yeah, everything's looking really, really good. So the beautiful thing is, once I make a change, that change is only set on the device that you're editing on, and every device smaller than that. So you make mobile specific changes and it won't mess up the other views of your website. So definitely come into the new web designer, start experimenting. I hope this video was very helpful to kind of walk you through the design process, and hope you guys can start building amazing, beautiful websites. So thank you and have a great day.